This is a familiar sight for most South Bay commuters. Rows and rows of traffic backed up for miles on our freeways, and it seems to get worse every day. Cupertino and its surrounding communities make up one of the largest and fastest growing metropolitan regions in the country. However, the present number of freeways cannot accommodate this growing population. Highways 280, 101, 880, and 237 are just not sufficient for handling the increasing flow of traffic. That's why county voters back in 1984 approved Measure A, a $900 million tax designed to improve conditions on the local freeways. Among the scheduled improvements is a proposal to extend Highway 85, which currently connects 101 in Mountain View with Stevens Creek Boulevard in Cupertino. Plans for extending the highway were first drafted in 1956 by the California State Highway Commission, but only recently have county officials acquired the necessary funds to support the project. The proposal calls for the extension of the freeway along the West Valley Corridor, thereby connecting it with the other major South Bay routes. Now, after more than 30 years in the books, it seems Highway 85 is at last becoming a reality. Groundbreaking ceremonies on the Cupertino stretch of the highway mark the official beginning of the long-delayed project, a project barring any further setbacks should see completion sometime by the early 1990s.
I guess today I feel good because they said it couldn't be done, and here we are breaking ground on the longest stretch of highway that's going to be built in the state. And I think it shows that we're a can-do county. And it's really not, it's not me, and it's not the traffic authority, and it's not all the elected officials that we've just introduced. It's the people, it's the taxpayers, it's the voters of this county who deserve all the credit, because they're the ones who were smart enough, brave enough, tough enough to say do it and make sure it got done. And to them, I just give all kinds of credit and thanks.
You know, coming from Saratoga, I often have to explain that there are many of us who are very supportive of the freeway, and quite a few Saratovans are here today to demonstrate their interest and support for the project. That's why I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to take the mic for a second and join in recognizing the gratitude that all of us hold towards those of you who have been working in the trenches for so many years to make this happen. It's a constant refrain. It's incredible. The anecdotal accounts going back to the 40s, when Saratoga was but a village. There are people who met with Caltrans to talk about the route of the freeway we're breaking ground for today. And we need to say thank you to all of those people, and we should say thank you with a great deal of pride, because Santa Clara County is the can-do county.
For many, Highway 85 is a project long overdue. For years, San Jose area commuters have had to deal with the day-to-day congestion of the local freeway system. Arterial streets, particularly here in Cupertino, have also experienced a significant increase in commuter traffic. Traffic counts on De Anza Boulevard at Stevens Creek have risen nearly 70% since mid-May 1979. Other major Cupertino intersections have recorded similar increases. In fact, without a major change in the flow patterns of local traffic, these figures could very well double by the year 2000.
85 is a necessity for the county, and it will be unknown at this time as to how much real benefit it will have on some of our major roadways. There's growth in the county that's going to occur. There is a peak period right now that is beyond 1 hour, and the capacities that are being provided may cause that peak period to shrink, but still put out the same amount of cars as you see on the road today. There will be maybe that same amount tomorrow. With increases in growth in the county, it may be that every 2 cars that you see out there today, you'll see 3 cars. So it's hard to tell with growth, with other factors, as to really what the final impact will be of 85. 85 is desperately needed for the county. As you can see, Route 280, other routes, 101s, they're impacted today. This will relieve them, and we must understand that 85 isn't solely being built for Cupertino or the West Valley cities, but it's for the whole county.
Route 85 is not the whole answer. It is, in my opinion, an indispensable portion of the whole answer, however. We can't have a viable transportation network in Santa Clara County until Route 85 is completed, 237 is made a freeway, and 101 is expanded its entire length. I think a longer-term plan requires the whole range of traffic improvements that are identified in the T2000 study, which has just recently been concluded and disseminated by the group that created it. That program includes a number of improvements to other automobile corridors, but also the utilization of light rail and heavy use of light rail in various corridors. I think all of these things taken together provide the complete answer. But to reiterate, I would say Route 85 is an indispensable portion of that answer.
According to traffic studies like the 1987 Barden-Ashman, Cupertinans can expect the following general improvements as a result of Highway 85's construction. Easier access to the freeway with Cupertino interchanges proposed at both Stevens Creek and De Anza Boulevards, moderate reductions in traffic flow along east to west running arterials, and a reduction in overall commute time for most county residents. Yet despite these optimistic predictions, there are still those who believe 85 is simply not the answer to the present traffic problem.
I think that it's a major step towards continued Los Angelesization, that kind of land use and that kind of trip patterns between home and commute, that it's going to reinforce long-distance commuting. It's going to tell people that that we're trying to provide a way for you to live in Coyote Valley and have a job in Sunnyvale or Palo Alto or something like that.
Also concerned with the issue are residents of Saratoga, a quiet upper-middle-class community of 30,000. For several years, the town has been strongly divided over the Highway 85 issue. In 1986, Saratogans voted against Measure B, an initiative which would have banned the construction of the freeway in their community. The measure was barely defeated, by some 600 votes. Now it's 1988, and opponents of 85 are still trying to stop the freeway, for the same reasons.
Well, basically this road is being built for the residents of Almaden and Coyote, to take the people from their residences to their jobs. Their jobs are not in Los Gatos, their jobs are not in Saratoga. However, they need to cut through Saratoga and Los Gatos to get to those jobs.
Opponents of the freeway, however, suffered a fatal blow this past November when Saratogans voted in favor of the construction of an interchange within their city limits. Although no definite interchange site has yet been determined, the fact that Saratoga has allowed an interchange at all is good news for Cupertino.
The studies would indicate that if there wasn't an interchange in Saratoga, that a lot of traffic would concentrate at the Saratoga Sunnyvale Road interchange, which then would cause levels of services to be lower than desirable. With an interchange in Saratoga, some of that traffic now will be dispersed rather than concentrated in Cupertino. So it was a very beneficial vote. It was one that Cupertino welcomed greatly, and now the intersection at Saratoga-Sunnyvale Road could be designed to accommodate the traffic without having to worry about having to handle a lot more traffic than it will now have to handle.
Having resolved the Saratoga interchange question, it seems now that the construction of Highway 85 can continue as scheduled. Here in Cupertino, however, another issue has surfaced, one that has gripped the community in a storm of controversy. We'll take a look at the issue of no access when our special report continues in a moment.
Understanding begins with communication. But communication is hard when you put up walls. You might think you're safe behind those walls, but you're not safe. You're just alone. Walls that keep your feelings inside keep love and understanding out. It doesn't have to be that way. Communicate. Open the door. Let love and understanding in.
I love hiking in a forest.
You know, Robin, forests are more than just great places to go hiking in.
They are?
Sure. Forests are homes to lots of different animals. We get wood from forests, and they help keep our air and water clean.
Gosh.
But our forests are threatened by development and people who don't treat them with respect.
Yeah.
To find out how you can help, write to Forests National Wildlife Federation,
Washington, D.C. 20036.
How'd you know that address?
A Frog Scout's always prepared.
in New York. The winters are tough and long. So I spent a lot of hours in the gym. Many of the things I did on the basketball court while I was growing up were the results of dreaming them, or just laying back and then imagining myself floating in the air and thinking about the hundreds of different ways that I can make the ball go in. I worked very hard. Let me tell you, I made a lot of sacrifices trying to be as good as I can be. And I did not want to do anything that was going to short-circuit that. Drinking, drugs, it doesn't make sense. I knew that they were counter to what I was working for. It just doesn't make sense.
As I said before, Cupertino is a unified city. It's comprised of several communities or neighborhoods. It is a progressive community with a workable blend of commercial and real estate and residential pockets. It has been an ideal place to live and raise our families. Today we are faced with an issue which, if not handled properly, can have far-reaching impacts on our lives as well as the unification of our city. We are threatened with an issue that can conceivably pit neighborhood versus neighborhood, one that is guaranteed to generate ill will if handled improperly.
Access or no access? That was the subject of debate at the November 15th public hearing held at Cupertino's Monte Vista High School. Nearly 1,000 people were on hand to discuss interchange alternatives that would allow northbound 280 traffic access to Stevens Creek Boulevard. The present alignment allows for such access. However, with the proposed extension of Route 85, only southbound 280 traffic would be allowed to exit at Stevens Creek. Merging distances for northbound vehicles are simply too short. In response to this access problem, the City of Cupertino and Caltrans have come up with 6 possible alternatives. 5 of the alternatives propose the construction of off-ramps or interchanges along nearby streets or frontage roads. The 6th alternative, no access, is one Public Works Director, Bert Viscovich, would like to avoid.
The real problem with no access is what you're really doing is taking away an access that's been there for some 18 years and all of a sudden force that traffic to use other routes, and what will happen is that that traffic will impact other roadways. It is felt that with 85 going in, that the real benefit is that you would have better access and you would not have to circulate through the city to get to your destination. Well, by eliminating that one particular access, you're going to force people to use De Anza Boulevard, Stevens Creek, impact McClellan Road, possibly Rainbow Drive, rather than get off at Stevens Creek and use Bub Road to gain their access.
According to traffic studies, a no-access alternative would create the very problems Highway 85 was designed to prevent. That is, to take the traffic off the city streets and put it on the freeways.
I think the biggest impact of Route 85 will be the transfer of traffic congestion from local streets and getting the heavy volume of traffic that's currently jamming those local streets onto a high-speed facility, a high-volume facility that can better handle that traffic. We're talking about a demand in that corridor of about 140,000 vehicles a day, moving primarily from the residences in the south to the jobs in the north and the return movement in the afternoon. A good portion of those, we estimate something on the order of 100,000 of those vehicles, will be going on to the mainline freeway. That's going to provide a very significant amount of relief on local streets. I think that's going to be the biggest and the most immediate benefit of Route 85.
So if the no-access alternative means substantially greater traffic volumes on Cupertino streets, are there perhaps better solutions? The Mary Avenue alternative provides access to Stevens Creek Boulevard via a proposed off-ramp to be constructed just south of the existing 280-85 interchange. The problem here? Mary Avenue residents. Residents believe the increasing flow of traffic through their neighborhood will create problems with noise, safety, and congestion.
This is our village. This is Mary Avenue here, and these are our homes. These are our bedrooms. We look out within 20 feet or so of Mary Avenue, and if we were to have the the 300 to 400% increase in traffic on our community road that's projected, it would have a disastrous effect.
The other alternatives, the full interchange and McClellan Road proposals, have their drawbacks as well. Off-ramps at these locations will force traffic into areas which are presently not designed to handle the projected decreased level of service. The proximity of 3 schools and residential areas makes these alternatives undesirable to many. So, having already heard testimony from most of the residents of the affected areas, which of the alternatives is the City Council most likely to favor?
The only thing that we've done in the report after reviewing the 5 different alternatives is a process of elimination, and have recommended to the council that the braided ramp at McClellan and the Mary Avenue be pursued further. And from that, there could be some modifications of that particular alternative, or at the end, if all else fails, the no access alternative becomes the one that is accepted by default, because all the other ones have failed in any of the tests. We've got to remember that this whole process will not end on Tuesday night. It must go through an evaluation process, both environmentally and technically, to determine whether these alternatives really could be implemented. And this process may take anywhere from 18 to 24 months to really evaluate all the other factors that have really not been included in this report. This report is really a cursory review of the viability of different alternatives as they conform to standards required by Caltrans to geometric design. There's a lot of other factors that must be evaluated before the project could be funded and constructed.
While climbing, secure figure 8 knot to harness.
Motivation is the key to fighting illiteracy.
Take it to the top!
When taking pictures in low light, always use high-speed film.
All right, guys, come on!
In scouting, what you read is what you do.
That's it. I'm history. End of the road.
You can't quit, Vince. No crash dummy takes out a utility pole like you do.
Larry, for years I've been proving how safety belts save lives, but nobody's listening.
Sure they are.
Yeah, that's why thousands die in car accidents every year. I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall.
Come on, Vince. Tomorrow's the big day. 2 compacts. Head on.
High speed?
Could save a life.
No, I'll be there.
Yeah.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Clint Eastwood is a little upset.
It seems some misguided individuals out there are abusing our public lands. They're vandalizing our public parks and playgrounds, and they're overrunning our wild areas. Real nice guys. Some clowns are even stealing artifacts from historic sites. Now, when I hear about things like that, it really bothers me. I find it unacceptable, and I know you do too, because these lands are ours, yours and mine. Now, I know what you're thinking. What can I do? Well, you can either sit there and do nothing, or you can start by getting some information on how you can help stop land abuse. As I see it, these people who are abusing our public lands can either clean up their act or get out of town.
Bad guys abuse public land. Good guys save it. If you want to help, write Take Pride in America. Post Office Box 1339, Jessup, Maryland 20794.
Obviously, a freeway project of this magnitude is going to take an extremely long time to build. We're hoping that we can have the facility open to traffic in the 1992-1993 timeframe.
The 18-mile extension of Highway 85 is scheduled to take place in 4 major segments over the next 4 to 5 years. The Cupertino-Saratoga stretch of the highway will be constructed along the West Valley Corridor from Stevens Creek Boulevard in the north to Route 17 in the south. Although work has already begun on the Stevens Creek 85 overpass, the Cupertino interchange controversy could potentially pose a delay for the rest of the freeway.
Obviously, it's your intention to take a public testimony tonight, and no one can fault you for wanting to be able to consider that testimony before you make a decision on the freeway agreement. But I would urge caution on your part in terms of when you do come to a final conclusion, if we are involved in a solution that is going to take time, that you first adopt the freeway agreement, agree to sign that agreement, and then we will work with you along with the Department of Transportation and others to try to implement whatever decision that you think is appropriate here. If we are to get this project moving and keep it on schedule, we need that signed freeway agreement, and I wanted to leave you with that tonight.
There are ways of being able to proceed ahead with a freeway agreement and performance agreement, and also simultaneously review these alternatives, or the council may choose to delay until they have more information on it. That's something that the council will have to decide.
It seems then only a matter of time before Highway 85 becomes a reality for South Bay commuters. How much time, however, is still unknown. There's still a lot of work to be done, signing freeway agreements, allocating funds, and of course resolving the 280 Stevens Creek access problem here in Cupertino. Most agree, however, when the freeway is finally completed, Santa Clara County traffic may be able to move just a little bit easier.
And the study says quite clearly that the freeway, with or without interchanges, is an indispensable portion of the answer to traffic relief in Santa Clara County and in Saratoga. You cannot expect any meaningful reduction in traffic congestion without Route 85 built. And you can say that quite safely from whatever perspective you select, from a Saratoga perspective or a Santa Clara County perspective. That conclusion still holds true.